Hello everyone, this is Marco and welcome back to my channel. Today we'll be taking a look at the Hammond collection Dimetrodon and how we could improve it because, let's all be honest, that head sculpt is a little hideous. It looks a little frog-like. Let's compare it to the source material with the Jurassic World Style Guide, the free document that the Jurassic community created for sculptors, creators, and companies to use as reference. So because of the overall shape of the jaw and the head being completely wrong, I sculpted a replacement head and Syrett is producing them. I made sure to follow the reference material as closely as possible, and as Mattel say, this is supposed to be a premium collector's figure. And with that original head, it does not come close to that at all. So let's take a closer look at them and compare them a little bit. You can see the new head is a bit longer. It's also pigmented with the same base color too, so it will make painting a lot easier. So this one's head is attached to the neck. It's all one piece, so it's quite different from the Raptors. We're going to need to blow dry, use a hairdryer or a heat gun, or maybe even some boiling water, and just heat it up nicely to soften the plastic. Now the plastic is quite a bit softer, we can bend it back a bit to reveal the joint. Next we want to grab a scalpel or a knife, a very small sharp one, please be very careful, and cut that hidden joint part with the knife like so. It's quite a fiddly procedure, please again be very careful. Once the joint is cut, it should look something like this, which should make taking it apart a lot easier. And there we go, we're left with that articulation point that looks a bit like a ring. Next we want to grab our replacement head and just slide it until it pops on. I recommend you heat this up too a little bit, we don't want it to break. Again, it's quite fiddly, you just move it up and down and then it just locks in place. Now it's all assembled, it is painting time. Since Syrett really nicely matched the base color with the original figure, all we have to do is just paint some details on. So I grabbed some primary red, mixed it with a bit of yellow to create that kind of orangey red color for the sail. Then I mixed some pink color and painted the inside of the mouth. I'm just using some standard acrylic paints. You can use ARTEZA or Liquitex. They're both really good brands and get the job done perfectly. I think the jaw comes separate when you purchase it, so that makes it easier to paint. I assembled mine before putting it on, just so I could see everything lined up fine. And of course it did, because Syrett is a wizard. I'm making sure I'm painting every single part of the mouth, including those membranes on the side. Next up is some detailing. I'm applying some of that darker brown on the back of the neck, a bit on the sail, and then a bit on the face too. Make sure that when you're painting the back of the neck, you articulate it a tiny bit in every direction so that you get to cover every single part that could be hidden, especially that bit back there by the joint. So to create this color, I used some red and a bit of black. It's kind of like a really dark red maroon color. A dark purple can work too. I'm applying that color in the eye socket and a little bit on the snout like that. It adds a nice shadow and contrast for the eye to really pop once we paint it. Did I mention that on the original head, one of the eye holes on mine wasn't even a hole? They forgot to poke a hole so you could see the eye behind it. That's kind of crazy. It was completely blind from one eye. Talk about premium quality, eh? Also, Mattel advertised this and used it as an example during their Comic-Con presentation as it having glass eyes. Which, in reality, it didn't. They just completely lied to us. Here's a picture. Instead, they just painted a bit of orange plastic behind, and that was it. They used the Dimetrodon as an example of adding glass eyes to smaller figures too, and how they listened to the community because everyone wanted that, apparently. That was the first time I ever heard that. Anyway, back to painting. I'm coloring in the bottom part of the neck on the jaw with the same color used for the belly. I just used some white mixed with some yellow. I also applied the same color on the tail too, because the tail is unpainted on the bottom when it should be. I made sure I watered it down by the sides so I could blend it in and make it look like it's airbrushed. If you own an airbrush, I highly recommend you use that for this step. But as I don't have one just yet, I'm using multiple paintbrushes and I'm just doing my best to mix in the color and make it look like it's blending in with the base color properly. I've got one brush with undiluted paint and then another brush that is just pretty much dipped in water, and I'm using that brush to smooth the paint and blend it in. If you're using an airbrush, it would be a lot more simple. As I don't have one, it is a little bit of a lengthy process, but I'll get there eventually. being extra careful. Making sure the watered down paint doesn't run anywhere like the inside of the mouth. It doesn't matter as much if it goes over the teeth though, as we're painting those later. As I said earlier, I painted the rest of the figure with some paint under the tail too. Again, they advertise these as having premium deco, which means as much paint as possible. They really do seem to cut corners on the smaller figures, but with the bigger figures like the Giganotosaurus, they've gone all out with paint. They've painted everything, with the exception of a scar on the face, but never mind. They've even added dry brushing, they painted the dew claw on the Giga, and the Carnotaurus is just perfect. So they obviously have favorites, and they do spend more money and effort on the big figures, which is a bit of a shame because the smaller figures definitely need more love. Also, I don't understand why they painted the underside of the feet of the Dimetrodon brown when they could have just not done that and used the budget that they spent on that to paint the rest of the tail. Again, it's just Mattel doing Mattel things, and you'd think I'd get used to it by now, but it's just so nonsensical sometimes, I just can't ignore it. And now I'm painting the eyes. The eyes are like an orangey brown, and I'm adding those very carefully with a very fine paintbrush. I like to dilute my acrylics just a tiny bit, especially with the eyes, because it makes it a tiny bit easier to apply. I use the same technique with the teeth too. I'm going around painting every tooth with some off-white. I mixed off-white with white, obviously, and a bit of yellow. I'm carefully painting the top row of the teeth, making sure I don't go over the gum line. It is quite painstaking, but if you do it right, it will look really good. So I really highly recommend you just take your time with this one, as the teeth are quite small too, especially with the bottom jaw teeth. They are extra small. I apologize for this next bit. It is a bit blurry as the camera was focusing on my hair, but I am painting the pupils with a cocktail stick or a toothpick. So here it is all painted up and assembled. It looks much nicer and closer to what we see in the film, and I'm extremely happy with the quality of Syrett products. They're 3D printed really well, and the material is perfect too. So not only we improved the sculpt, but also the function of the jaw. As you can see, the jaw has a proper hinge this time too. If you want to get this head, it is available on Syrett store. On Etsy, I highly recommend you go and check it out. Here it is with the custom Hammond collection Buck T-Rex with a replacement head that Syrett and I made. I want to apologize, I've been a little late with this video, but the next video I think is going to be the blue head replacement, which is one I'm really looking forward to showing you guys. So thanks so much for watching. Again, if you want this head, it is available right now. I'll leave the link in the description. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care and happy Jurassic June. I would like to give a massive thank you to all of my Patreons. Seriously guys, your support really does mean the world to me, as it helps me do what I love for you. You help me buy materials, and most of all, you give me a helping hand with improving the quality of the content of my videos. Even if it's just a small donation, every little helps.